ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שהכל נהיה בדברו. I must have mentioned this as well in the past, that the first one to recognize the Jewish slaves that were in Egypt as a nation, as a people, was Pharaoh. He realized that this is a group, not just individuals, but they have something in common. They were all, of course, the descendants of the patriarchs, but there were by now, of course, hundreds of thousands in Egypt. What kept them together? What made them into a nation? Well, most probably slavery. They had a common enemy, the Egyptian taskmaster. They had to maintain themselves united in order to be able to survive such extreme conditions. And this is what happens many a time with a group. Why do you stay together? Because there is a common enemy. Our ancestors were in the desert and they used to make a camp. They didn't travel all the time. They remained in certain places for some time. And there was a certain formation for that. And that is called machaneh. They encamped also together in order to have some order internally, but at the same time to defend themselves against the enemies in a desert of wild animals or who knows what. When the Americans were conquering the West, what they did is they went with wagons, and at night they used to what's called circle the wagons. They made a circle with all the wagons in order to fend off possible Indians or who knows what kind of animals would attack them during the night in order to protect themselves. To circle the wagons is already an expression which means to defend yourself against possible enemies. And tyrants in the world, dictators, use that all the time. They know that people stay together when there is an enemy from without who is going to invade them or to do something to them. And if there is no enemy, they create one. They invent one because they know that to keep the people together, you must think of danger. I remember when I lived in Venezuela, one time there was some kind of riots and people started coming into the place where we lived. There was a supermarket and robbed things in the supermarket. And we were afraid for ourselves. And we thought that we had to defend ourselves. Who knows where these people are going to go? Maybe they'll walk into the apartments as well. So I remember, suddenly I knew neighbors by name that I had seen many a time before, but I didn't know. We made guards on the roofs during at night. We discovered that there were 60 pistols in the entire development of people who had guns, and we were ready to protect ourselves in case of any attack from these invaders who came in to rob the supermarket. Maybe they were going to rob us as well. What I'm trying to say is that danger brings about cohesion. In the case of the Jewish people, anti-Semitism was a tremendous factor in keeping the people together because there was an enemy from without, and we had to stay together in order to fend off. But Rav Soloveitchik says this is one concept of society, machaneh, where we come together because of external forces. But there's also another word, which is eidah. Eidah means testimony, comes from the word ed, which means something else. You know why we are together? Because we have an idea, because we have an ideal, because we have a purpose. It is not a negative factor that is bringing us together. It's rather something positive. The state of Israel was created in response partially also because of anti-Semitism. The modern Zionist movement in the beginning of the 20th century tried to bring people, Jews, to Israel, even though there was a Jewish presence throughout the history in the land of Israel, but in greater numbers as a response to anti-Semitism. But that wasn't the only reason. There was also the idea of nationalism. Suddenly in Europe, in the 19th century, there was a resurgence of looking for your own identity. And the Jewish people also felt we have an identity which we can only express in a country of our own. So the state of Israel, on the one hand, tries to fend off our enemies, but more importantly, it tries to give space for the development of Jewish ideals, of Jewish purposes, of Jewish morals. The state of Israel has a tremendous defense force, great air force, and what have you. Has many resources in order to fend enemies off. But did you read Startup Nation? Look at other works that are being done. Israel is a very avant-garde society, very creative, with all sorts of new developments, technological, cultural, scientific, and what have you. Warren Buffett said the following: if you want to go to the Middle East and you're looking for oil, don't go to Israel. You won't find it. But if you're looking for brains, if you're looking for creativity, only go to Israel, because nowhere else in the Middle East are you going to find that.